Word nerd, wordsmith, wordy, wordless. Oxford Dictionary says a word is a single, distinct, meaningful element of speech or writing, used with others or sometimes alone. We say each one matters. No extra words is literature, minimalist style. And we're getting you right to the story.
The Silver Horseshoe by Nels Hansen. Is it time yet? The kids would begin asking when Sunday dinner was over and Robert ran water on the dishes in the sink. I could hear them from the bedroom. Almost, Robert would say, shutting the cupboard door. It's time, Daddy, they would say. It's time, Robert would answer. I'd hear him pull his chair from the table and begin the way he always did, so either child could have told the story. Once, a long time ago, almost 100 years ago, there was a man from a rich family in England. He was the youngest son, so he joined the English army and went to India. There he fell in love with a beautiful princess. Her name was Maya. Maya loved the colonel and called him Colonel Mine, but Maya's parents wouldn't let them marry, and the colonel's parents found out and threatened to disown him. Because they were different races, Kathy said. That's right, Robert said. And they were going to run away, Kathy said. Let Dad tell it, Bobby would say. They were going to run away. But Maya's parents found out and took her away to a city in the mountains. The colonel couldn't enter the city because he wasn't a Hindu. He wrote Maya letters that always were returned unopened. But finally, one day, a letter came from the princess. She wrote that she was getting married to a man her parents had chosen. She said she still loved the colonel, but they would never meet again. In this life, Kathy said. In this life, Robert said. In the next life, she would find him. She would never stop searching until they were man and wife. He went to England then, Bobby said. To his family's castle, Robert said. His father had died. The colonel stayed 1 week to claim his inheritance, then took a ship to New York. He caught a train and came all the way across the country to California, to the San Joaquin Valley. With his money, he bought 20,000 acres over by Riverdale, along the South Fork of the Kings River. His land reached all the way to the Coast Range. There the colonel raised quarter horses for racing. His dream was to win the Kentucky Derby against the thoroughbreds. His favorite horse was a white stallion named Indian Star. He trained Indian Star himself. When he whistled, Indian Star would run to him from across the pasture. Robert paused. The children would wait. But one day the colonel whistled, and as Indian Star galloped toward him, the horse stumbled in a gopher hole. He broke his leg, and the colonel had to put him down. He was dead now, Kathy said. Yes, Robert said. The colonel buried Indian Star with a golden bridle and a Spanish saddle set with jewels. He had a tombstone placed over Indian Star, just as if the horse were a person. The colonel locked himself in his house. He wouldn't come out. He wouldn't eat. He stayed alone in his room for a week. It was about this time that your great-grandfather, Robert, went to work for the colonel. He helped him break horses. But he didn't hurt them, Kathy said. No, honey, he was training them. Go on, Bobby said. Anyway, Robert said, the colonel was rich, and in those days silver was cheap. Silver is softer than iron, less hard on a horse's hooves. So Robert shod all the colonel's horses with silver horseshoes. Robert worked for the colonel for 3 years. Then he came back to the farm, where we are now, only then there weren't any trees and vines. Robert bought and sold horses, and it was all green grass with a fence around. During the summers, Robert would pasture some of the colonel's horses. The colonel would ride over with some cowboys and 20, maybe 30 black racehorses, all with silver shoes. Imagine 30 black horses with silver shoes coming down the road in the moonlight. They'd be pretty, Kathy said. A couple of months later, when the colonel's men were gathering the horses from the pasture, Robert saw that one of the horses had lost a shoe. Missing a shoe here, Colonel, your great-grandfather called. Must have thrown it in the pasture somewhere. Let me go look. No, don't worry, Bob. No need to trouble yourself, the colonel said. I have some spares in my saddlebag. Robert waited. All that summer, and fall and winter and spring, and the next year and the year after that, your grandfather, Robert's son, looked for the lost horseshoe. He looked and looked, but he could never find it. And when I was a boy, the age you kids are now, I looked for it too, but I never found it either. Now it's up to you. to find the silver horseshoe. And the colonel and the princess, they met again and got married, Kathy asked as I listened. In another life? That's right, Robert said. They rode the streets of her father's city on a white horse. It was Indian Star, Bobby said. But what if the horseshoe isn't good anymore? Kathy asked. No, Robert said. Silver doesn't rust. Gold either. Silver and gold. It's still good, wherever it is. I think I know where it is, Bobby said. Where? Kathy said. No, you don't. Cover up the holes you dig, Robert called after them. You don't want me to trip and lose my shoe. But the screen door banged, and they were already running toward the orchard or the vineyard or the barn. I couldn't see them from my window, but I knew. And Robert would get up from his chair and come into the bedroom and sit down on the edge of the bed. Often I felt low, worried about the loan or the hail or the rain on the raisins. I would say, I don't think you should talk about it anymore. It's not fair. I guess you're right, Robert would say. I'm going to have to drop it. He'd lean over and straighten the quilt on the bed, then look out the window at the vine rows stretching on and on. We'll need something else, I said after a while, reaching to touch Robert's hand, to take the place of the horseshoe. A white horse, he'd say, turning to smile at me. But it was true, wasn't it? I asked him, sitting forward. Tell me it was true. It was true, Robert said, pushing me back gently. It's out there somewhere. He'd take off his boots and lie down on the bed beside me, putting his arm around my shoulder. I'd close my eyes then and feel the presence of the horse. I'd feel its breath and hear the pounding of its 4 hooves shod in silver. I knew the children heard it too, when they called to one another. It was just ahead of them, around the corner of the barn, a flash of white down the next vine row. I'd think then that the silver horseshoe was under my head, that I could feel its imprint through the pillow. I was the princess, and Robert was the colonel, and what was lost and never found would always be ours, because it was lost and safe forever. Hello there. Welcome to No Extra Words, your flash fiction podcast. My name is Chris Baker-Dersch. I'm your producer and editor. Usually when we have an episode like we do today, where it's a 2-story episode with a longer story followed by a shorter story, we do the shorter story first. It kind of sets you up and then you can kind of sink in and listen. But this week, a silver horseshoe needed to come first. I talked a couple weeks ago about storytelling and the act of storytelling as being a little bit different than story writing. It's certainly in the same family. The two are connected, but there's a difference to a story that's told, and that's really what a silver horseshoe is. It goes back to that storytelling. You literally see this family telling this story and passing it through the generations. Nels Hansen was the winner, one of our winners, of our Contributor Appreciation Month promotion back in January. So coming very soon to your podcast feed is going to be a special Nels Hansen episode where you're going to learn more about him and who he is and where his inspiration comes from. And Nels Hansen actually comes from a place like where a silver horseshoe is set, a family farm that's been passed through the generations. So knowing that, and you're going to hear it soon, it's really interesting to me I can't really separate Nels Hansen, the writer, from this story about Robert and the silver horseshoe. It's got a fairy tale element to it. Before I get to what's coming up next, a quick podcast announcement. We are hooked on specials around here. Lots of special episodes coming, and one of the ones I have planned is an opening day of baseball season special that's going to come to you in a few weeks. That's always a big holiday in my family, and baseball is a very literary sport. It gets written about in prose and in poetry too. And so I'm asking listeners of the show and supporters of the show, if you are someone who's got your own baseball story to tell, I'd love to have you send it our way. We'd love to feature it on the show. We're taking poetry, we're taking nonfiction, fiction, whatever you've got, but it's us. We're No Extra Words, so whatever you send us has to be 1,000 words or less. All the details about what we're looking for and where to send it are on our website at noextrawords.wordpress.com. As with many things, the quicker you get it to us, the better, but we will look at and accept those all the way through March 18th. So if there are other baseball fans in the hearing of this, we would love to hear your baseball stories and add them to the show. Coming up next, staying in that fairy tale theme, a sort of different kind of fairy tale come true. I love featuring young writers on the show, and Ashley Williams is actually a high school student. We are delighted to feature her work. One of my dreams for the future of No Extra Words is to do a Young Writers Month, but in the meantime, we try to squeeze them in whenever and wherever we can. So coming up next is Daydreaming by Ashley Williams. I will see you next time here on No Extra Words. Daydreaming by Ashley Williams. An hour ago, I was all alone at home, sad and sleepy. A year ago, I would have never asked her on an impromptu beach trip. But this is us, right now, and we are right here, and she is so beautiful. I can't believe we're doing this, she yells to me, and I smile. She's running, and I don't make an attempt to catch up. Instead, I fall in the sand and watch her. She's wearing a shirt that's 3 sizes too big. The socks she has on are red and white and knee-high. God, she's the only one who would wear socks on the beach. She comes back. She always comes back. I reach up for her like a little girl, and she comes crashing into me. We're a giggly mess, and I love it. Will you kiss me? It's a demand, playing the part of a question. What's the magic word? I'd do it whether she played nice or not. Pretty please, will you kiss me? So I do, and we are here, making out under 1,000,000 different stars, something straight out of a daydream. Let's play hide and seek, I suggest. On the beach? On the beach, I'll count. Before she can answer, I close my eyes and count my way up to 20. When they open, I see her staring at me from a few feet away. You're so dumb, she says. Then she's running, and I'm running, and we're both laughing. This moment is so beautiful. She wants to be caught. I can tell because she's not going full speed, or half speed for that matter. I'm so slow, and by the time I'm close enough to grab her, I'm out of breath. As soon as my lungs are working again, she's kissing my cheeks, my nose, my neck, and suddenly I'm breathless once more. She's so mean to me. I hug her so tight, so close that we're practically one body. We have school tomorrow, I whisper into her shoulder. We'll be exhausted. Worth it, she replies, and she's so right, whether she knows it or not, about everything. All the obstacles and hardships and discrimination boils down to that one phrase, worth it. And she is.
Thanks for listening to the No Extra Words podcast. For more information on today's stories and contributors, or to learn how to submit your own work, please visit us at noextrawords.wordpress.com. The best support you can give the show is to recommend us to your family and friends. See you next time.